Holy heck, today's officer correctly, rightly, and justifiably tunes this dude right up. Palm pepper spray is next generation OC spray. It's hot at 1.4% major capsaicinoids, and its modular design means you can customize it exactly to you. 3 different setups, lots of different color combinations. You can make it exactly as you like. And the flip top safety prevents accidental discharges. It's 10 to 12 foot range and 25 half-second blasts. Make sure that you can keep that long range eye poke at long range. I trust Palm OC and I recommend it for everyone for self-defense. Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection, where every day we analyze a real-life use of force caught on camera so that our training and our practice can be more evidence-based. I'm your host, John Correa.
I'm your co-host, Mike Willower. Today's video comes to us from Richmond, Virginia.
I've heard there's Richmond north of there.
Yeah, I heard that. It was a song, I think.
I think so. University police officer has clocked a motorist doing 50 miles an hour in a 25 zone, so he wants to say hello and issue maybe a citation for that. We have badge cam audio. Let's listen in and hear what happened.
Hey man, you can stay in your car. You can stay in the car, man. You can have a seat. What? Have a seat. So I'm stopping you for going 50 miles an hour to 25.
What are you talking about here?
So I need you to sit down.
I think you're messing with me.
So no, I'm not.
I think you're messing with me. I think you're messing with me.
No, you need to sit down.
No,
have a seat. Have a seat. You're okay. I'm not messing with you. You need to have a seat.
Why are you grabbing me? Why are you grabbing me? I want to talk to somebody.
Okay, have a seat. Have a seat.
Why are you grabbing me?
Have a seat now.
Why are you grabbing me?
Have a seat. Have a seat or
I
turn around.
haven't done anything.
Okay.
I'll
Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
Sit in the car.
Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. He's trying to grab my gun. He's trying to grab my gun. Get off my gun! Get off my gun! Get off my gun! Get off my gun!
You know what you did?
Lay down flat on your back! Lay down flat on your back!
I've sped this portion up. The officer is going to hold him down until he gets back up. Then they're going to get this guy into custody, get him some treatment, and then get him into custody for trying to take the gun of a police officer. News stories are linked in the description with more. Now, we had a bystander film a video on a cell phone as well. I've blown it up and tried to stabilize it a little bit, where you're going to see him here throw some left hands, and then once he does, he gets this guy on the ground, stops hitting him. As soon as he gets him on the ground, then what you're going to notice here, officer does a really good job of getting back control, getting the guy's arms behind his back, and getting him into a good position from a defensive tactics position to dominate him without hurting him and getting him into custody. The officer here was unharmed in this, did not pull his gun. The perp definitely probably needed to get seen for a fat lip after this one. Holy crap, man, he tuned that dude up.
It happens. I mean, I had somebody reach for my gun once. Didn't go well for him either.
Well, hey, good for him. I want to start with a reminder to all of our private citizens that the only time you want to get out of a car is when the officer asks you to, okay? If the officer asks you to step out of the vehicle, great. But otherwise, if you get out of the car, that signals to a police officer, and it should, that either you want to run, so you're trying to get away from him, or you want to get up so that you have explosive power so that you can fight the officer. So if the officer hasn't asked you to get out of the car, this is a major trigger for the officer that bad things are about to happen to him or her, and they are going to get hinky about that. And officers, I think you have good reason to get hinky about it. So when you see somebody getting out, you might feel like, nope, I need to get in here and take control of this guy. You also might think, depending on the situation, you know what? He starts to get out. I'm going to maintain a little bit of distance until I can figure out what's going on. And that's going to be very contextually dependent.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you said this or not, John, but probably the number one reason people get out of their car at a traffic stop like this is there's something in the car they don't want the officer to find, so they want to get themselves away from it. A gun, dope, whatever, a body in the trunk. So this is a definite trigger for me. I saw this a few times in my career. Never felt good about it. I think when this happened to me, my first instinct was to back way off and be like, all right, well, he's out of the car. I'm not going to have an argument about getting back in the car. All right, man, come on over here, have a seat on the curb. I put him in a position of disadvantage, have him cross their ankles, cross their arms, and chill, and we can talk that way. And if he refuses to sit down on the curb, then we'll figure it out some other kind of way. But I understand why I moved in. It is a tendency of law enforcement officers to get in quickly and kind of handle business. The only recommendation thing I might have done differently here is not to close the gap, but back up and go, okay, you're out of the car, come here, have a seat on the curb.
Now, he decided to make that close distance, could have been contextually determined for him. I think he talks very professionally to this man. I think he's very kind, explains why he pulled him over. Hey, sir, no problem. Go ahead and have a seat. And the guy keeps edging towards him. I just want to say, I think that this officer puts soft hands on this guy, but he does it in a very compassionate way. This doesn't feel to me like controlling, like he's pushing him, like he's trying to hold him there. I think he's trying to make human connection with him. Okay, sir, we're okay. Just sit down here. And that's not something I think I've ever seen on camera before, but I really feel like from whether he's had the training for it or not, from a crisis intervention kind of perspective or a de-escalation perspective, I actually think, Mike, this was pretty good given the context and a good bet.
This is why I work here, by the way, because I actually hadn't really noticed it or thought about that until John pointed it out. But yeah, I think you're right. Everything in my brain when I'm watching this entire sequence here is telling me get back, get away from this guy. Don't be as close in as you are for the reasons that we're about to see. But such as it is, I think this wasn't a terrible idea. Just to be like, hey man, it's okay, take it easy, because he could probably tell this guy wasn't all there entirely. He wasn't having a good day. So he was at least attempting to de-escalate. Obviously it didn't work out, but this is something that I'm going to start thinking more about now.
And of course, he's a university cop, right? So he's dealing with college students all day long. So sometimes, a smile and a hug might do more than, a firm hand or something like that. Contextually dependent. I'm not saying you need to do that all the time, officers. I'm saying contextually dependent, and sometimes a meaningful human touch can do a lot to de-escalate a situation, a handshake, a fist bump, stuff like that, right? Now, this guy instead is going to choose, because clearly he is compromised thinking, contaminated thinking of some capacity, and he decides, nope, I'm going to go for the officer's gun, right? Why would you do that? I mean, so at this point, he's going for the gun. Officers, first thing, make sure that your disarm prevention, that your weapon retention skills, that you pay attention in weapon retention class, that you go at speed and doing that. Now, not at the beginning, of course, but that you get some reps with somebody who really does want to take that blue gun out of your holster on the mats, so then that way you can get some practice on that. And here you got to decide, am I going to whoop this guy enough to get away from him, or am I going to get into the fight and go on him? I always say, if you can't get out of the fight, get into the fight. And this officer chooses, Mike, to get into the fight. And if you have skills, if you've got some empty-handed skills, your DT is good, you've got some training beyond the academy for your empty hands, I think going in was a really good choice here.
Yeah, I concur. I will say this. When I was active duty, I had a collapsible steel baton. I had it in a cross-draw, adjustable, canted cross-draw position on my non-dominant side. The reason I carried it there was I could draw it with either hand easily. A lot of cops carry their baton sort of behind their gun, on their gun side, which is fine, to each his own. I liked having it in front for one reason, so I can get it with both hands. Why is that important? Well, if someone does go for my gun, I can put my dominant hand onto the gun, lock it in place, and I can take that baton out and get to work, right? I don't need to have super duper ninjutsu skills. I would keep it in the closed position and go about hitting him wherever I could find a spot to hit him with the butt end of that baton. Bear in mind, this is now a deadly force situation, potentially. He's trying to take your gun, so pretty much everything, to include biting him and eye gouging, if necessary, is on the table. I want officers to realize that when you're doing your mental reps and you're thinking about, okay, if someone takes my gun and I'm seated, I'm here, I'm there, I'm on a traffic stop, whatever, make sure you remind yourself constantly when you're doing your mental reps, everything is on the table for a gun grab. Everything. There's nothing off the table as far as what I can do to get this person to stop doing what they're doing. And that includes the butt end of a baton to the top of the head.
Yeah, absolutely. And a punch in the face is great here, right? So again, drill this guy in the face. As long as you have your firearm retained and you know he can't get it out of the holster, punching this guy in the face until it changes his behavior is not a bad choice. But because, again, this is a deadly force situation, because he's trying to grab your gun, if you had that baton out, and even within a short held, it's like a Kubotan, right? And you are bonking him and blessing him with a little bit of the modern hickory shampoo, as it were. I get it. What it would be, like a tungsten shampoo or something, Mike? Aluminum shampoo? Anyways, that would be totally justified. The fact that he's in this fight here, you got to have tenacity and sand and grit and say, I'm not losing this fight. And I will say, I don't know a lot of officers that work repeated left hands like this. So shall we call this the left hand of fellowship, Mike?
I quit. No, I'm kidding. I don't quit. I got to be honest. the few times that I used my collapsible steel baton, at least half of those times it was in the closed position, and I had sort of an end cap, the removable end cap that I bet one a little bit bigger, it had a little bit more business to it. Another thing you can do, by the way, if you're going to throw punches, is if that baton is in your hand in the closed position, it basically acts like a roll of quarters at that point, and it makes your punch that much more stout. So if you are going to punch with that baton in your hand, it makes it hurt a lot more. It gives a lot more oomph to that punch. You might break some fingers, but whatever, it sure beats the heck out of having your gun taken away from you. And yeah, I got to be honest, when I was watching this, I'm like, how effective would my left hand be in a situation like this? And the fact that I don't know I'm a little disappointed in myself, because I guess you should, one of the big training points here might be, hey, work on your non-dominant hand punch. My right hand, not a problem. Thunderbolt, right? Lightning, I don't know, maybe, kind of, sort of.
maybe not. We'll see, how that goes. Well, hey, it's one of the things we work on the mats is being good on both sides, right? Having symmetrical skills, I think, is important, even if your dominant side is your right-hand side. I'll also say on this cell phone video, okay, fine, you're a private citizen, you want to get, insta-famous by putting it on the grams, that's fine by me. What this one shows is this officer here showing really remarkable restraint. And I think, maybe there's some out there a reputation that university cops are kind of, second tier, not the best. They work at a university because they couldn't get on with the city or with the county. But this university cop here showcases remarkable restraint in not continuing to beat crap out of this guy after he needed to by getting on top and showing really good technique. He clearly paid attention in defensive tactics classes, and I think is an example for officers here of what to do.
This is something I've talked about a bunch of times. Look, you got to get this person in a position of disadvantage. I think what he's doing was fine. I have no qualms with it at all. His technique was fantastic. I prefer a knee, if the person's face down, right over the shoulder and the shoulder blade. My 100-pound little kid could keep me on the ground doing that. It's incredibly effective. And then you can take a deep breath, reassess. You could sit there all day waiting for backup to come. There's no reason to do anything else. Here's the takeaway for me from this. If you are to traffic stop officers, deputies, agents, and the person gets out of the car, consider backing way off. Keep an eye on their hands, tell them to sit on the curb. All right, that's not what happened here. If that doesn't happen, you end up in a fight like this. You should know ahead of time and be confident that your DT skills are so good that you're going to win this fight. You stay in the fight. That's what this officer did. This could have ended very, very poorly for the officer or the suspect. However, this officer was prepared. He had obviously trained. He had the right attitude, the right skills, and the right plan, and he covered his ass.